All right, Coach, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Do appreciate it. I never thought I would get a Nittany Lion. You're not really the Nittany Lions, but I don't think. Are you, technically?
Technically, yes. Yeah.
You're all Nittany Lions. Okay, I never thought I'd have be interviewing the Nittany Lions, but here we are. But no, thanks for taking the time on, especially on a Friday where I'm sure there's better things you'd rather be doing than talking soccer with a phone head. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem, Paul. Excited to be on here, and yeah, I've listened to a bunch of bunch of your podcasts and stuff. So yeah, really excited to be here.
All right. Wow, I have a fan. It's like when I meet one, I'm like, oh my God. Like, always astonishes me that people listen. But all right, so I'm not sure if I got this right. You've been a head coach at Penn State Harrisburg for what, 3 years? Is this your third year?
The third season.
Third season. Yep.
Yeah, I got hired in about 3 weeks before 2021 season. So I'll actually be finishing my second full year, but this will be my third fall.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you could just start with what I like to do is maybe you could just give me your soccer experience, sort of how you, and ultimately how you ended up at Harrisburg. That would be great.
Yeah, so, I mean, I fell in love with soccer when I was young. My dad played in college, and so, that ever since I was 4 or 5, whenever you could start playing on teams and stuff, that was the sport I played. I played other sports, but that was my true love. And when I got to high school, that's what I chose to focus on. I knew I wanted to play college soccer, and so I was traveling to a club team that was about 2 hours away, 3 to 4 days a week to train. So playing other sports wasn't really an option for me because I was playing on that team, and then got recruited to play at Messiah College. That's what it was back then. It's now Messiah University, and so wasn't expecting that to happen. Wanted to play Division I. I had opportunities to play Division I, but getting to go and experience a preseason game where there's 2,000 fans watching a preseason game, and getting to see the guys interact with each other, and getting to do an ID camp and seeing how just different that's run compared to other universities. I was sold to go play there, and I think a lot of that was because the coaching staff cared about us as people more than as players, and I think it got the most out of us. And I think it truly was a group of guys that were chasing something bigger than themselves. And so, yeah, that experience that 4-year experience was awesome. I was fortunate enough to win 2 national championships there, and get to be a part of that historic tradition. And so that was super special. Just seeing how involved alumni were, and just the investment that it took to keep the program where it's at and to continue to try and elevate it and stuff. And but I would say my coaches have been my biggest influence on my life, both Coach McCarty, the men's coach, Aaron Farrow, but also Scott Fry, my father-in-law. They're the reasons I wanted to get into this, because of the experience they gave me as a college student athlete. And so that's why, I wanted to get into coaching afterwards. And so I jumped on staff with my alma mater on the men's side. I would help out with camps on the women's side too, but I was primarily on the men's side. And then I got an opportunity at 23 to go be the head coach at Eastern University.
Mm-hmm.
This is down in Philly, in the MAC. So that was a women's job, and it was an opportunity to be a head coach at 23. So I took it, and loved that experience. And was super grateful for it. I feel like I learned a lot through failure. I didn't have the normal experience of I spent a year and a half under Coach McCarty. My primary responsibility was goalkeepers, so then going and having to run your own team at
It's a different ball game.
it is. And so, yeah, I felt like that experience, it was just trial by fire and
Hmm.
learning a lot. And so I then had the opportunity to go to Liberty University
Yep.
and be an assistant there, which I think was really beneficial. One, I think it was a different environment than Messiah in terms of not the faith piece, but just different soccer. I think it made me think differently about the game, and um, because Messiah is just so systematic and
Yeah.
you do things a certain way, and it's very, very effective. And so to get to go to Liberty and learn something new, and but also just get to be an assistant and learn,
Hmm.
I think is valuable. And then always wanted to come back home. This is
Hmm.
home for my family, and so to have the opportunity to be here and um, get to coach back at the Division III level. That was always my hope, because that's where I come from is
Hmm.
Division III, and I value that experience. And I don't think it. I think Division III sometimes gets a bad rap for they typically are less committed, and it's just not the case. If you do it well and you establish a culture and an environment where they care about each other and care about their growth and all that stuff. So yeah, it's been an awesome 3 years here. It's been a lot of fun. So
Just for folks who don't know, right? I mean, you're when you say it's home, Harrisburg is right near Mechanicsburg, so which is where Messiah is, and so
yeah,
and I didn't know. So Coach Fry is your father-in-law?
yep, yep, he
Okay,
is.
I heard that
Hmm.
correctly. Okay, yeah, I
Yep.
had both of them on, Coach McCarty and Coach Fry, and total learning experiences for me. I'm a big fan of Messiah, just in the style of play and what you do. But I recognize that there's something special there that goes beyond the play on the field. I mean, the commitment of the community and the school to those programs. I mean, every time I watch online, it's like I wish I was there. It looks like such an atmosphere. So, um,
Yeah.
all right. So the first thing that sort of popped in my head as you were talking, I, I'll just say your foundational stuff, like sort of who you are and your experience, is Messiah, right? Like, and you do have obviously Eastern and Liberty, but but I'll just as a reference point, Messiah is. I mean, I don't want to say dramatic because it might not be. Like the difference between Penn State Harrisburg, which is a state school for all intents and purposes,
Hmm.
versus a school like Messiah, which is faith based, very specific.
Hmm.
I mean, did that take some time getting used to, or am I making a mountain out of a molehill in that there's really not much difference between those two types of schools?
No, there is for sure. I mean, at Messiah, I mean, all the classes are taught from a biblical context, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, so that's not the case here. I would say, um, um, you just get people, different walks of life, different backgrounds here, um, and uh, that's been awesome. I've
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed I've enjoyed that a lot, more than I even thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's definitely opened my eyes. In just everyday conversation with coworkers, with players, like at Messiah, a lot of people have not the same beliefs as me, but very similar, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like here, people have different beliefs than me. um, and not just from a faith perspective, but I mean everything. And so it's been cool to like just get to have those types of conversations, just like with coworkers and
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. In terms of like level of athlete, I think where it's so different is Messiah is such a niche, right? Like
Yeah.
um, they're trying to attract the top Christian athletes in the country to come play for them. Here, that's where the difference is. Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, I get very high level players, right? I mean, Penn State Harrisburg. Yes, we're Penn State Harrisburg, but my kids graduate with a Penn State degree. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can sell that we have the biggest alumni network in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I can sell that it's a Penn State degree. We get all of those benefits. I mean, our library is connected to the Big Ten Library Network.
Mm-hmm.
Like just all of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And so, uh, from an academic standpoint, like when my kids graduate, and I didn't realize like the power of it until I got here. You know,
Yeah.
my players are having no problems getting awesome jobs and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. But where the difference is like I can recruit anybody.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, you don't have to be a Christian to go play at Messiah, but like
Mm-hmm.
you have to. If you're not, you have to understand what you're getting yourself into and be
Yeah.
okay with that. And if you're not, it's not going to go well.
Yeah, yeah. You almost have to be bought in to everything surrounding it. I could see that. Yeah.
Right.
Just-
Whereas here, it's like any player is in my wheelhouse because
Mhm.
I'm not tied to that. It sometimes is a blessing and it sometimes is a curse, right? Because I got to flip so many stones,
Yeah.
right? Whereas at Messiah, um, you maybe have less stones to flip, but sometimes those stones come to you, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's a nice benefit.
Yeah.
So. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's differences, but in terms of like level of soccer and where I think this program can grow to and stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to be Messiah. I think what they've done is extremely special,
Yeah.
but
It's
I do,
unique. It's definitely
yeah,
unique. Yeah.
we can compete
Yeah.
and get to that level where we're competing against those types of teams. I think we can get those level of players. Yes.
Mhm. Do you $1 million question? Could you see yourself back at Messiah, or do you think that's sort of a route that not one that say is closed off to you, but you're sort of exploring this other avenue of soccer and academic school?
Yeah. I've gotten asked that. Like I've gotten asked, like, would you go back to the men's game?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, yeah, Messiah's got a close place to my heart,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I just live in the present. I love my
Yeah.
group now,
Yeah.
and so I'm not really thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's fair.
I mean, my my father-in-law is still young,
He is. I'll tell
so
you. Pretty
yeah,
energetic dude. I'm like, wow,
yeah.
you still got it going.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, he's wasting that energy chasing 5 grandkids around now, but
Yeah. That's
but
awesome.
yeah. So sure, is it in the back of my mind, like as a possibility? Yes, but I'll be honest, I've loved this experience. I think
Yeah.
more than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it here, and it's something I've got. It's got my own fingerprints on it, and so
Mhm.
that's special to me and everything.
Um, okay, that's fair. That's probably as probing and as investigative question as I will ask.
Okay.
Like I even as I was saying it, I'm like, you never. That's kind of like a really tough question to ask someone. Anyhow, all right. This is interesting to me, but um, so you go Messiah, you go Eastern, you go Liberty, and now you're at Harrisburg.
Yep.
From your experience, there's two questions here. One, in your time as a coach, as a player and a coach, have players gotten better? And then the second piece is, do you see regional differences between players?
Okay. So do I think yes? I think from the Division 3 landscape, Division 3's gotten a lot better. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, I think um, now if you're talking about certain teams and all that stuff, I think there's some really special teams. I mean, a women's and men's side, and
Mm-hmm.
if I'm talking about like my experience, like the Loris team that I played in 2012 in the semifinal, that York team that we played in the Sweet 16. I mean, they would be very dominant in this era.
Yeah.
But what I would say that I've seen across Division Three is I think the bottom and the middle of the pack teams have gotten a lot better. You know, when I played, like I think the top 25 as is like when I played, I think we could have played in this era and been fine.
Mm-hmm.
Being honest,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but where I think I see the main difference was when we would play the middle of the pack teams. They hadn't climbed as much, and I think that's where you've seen a major
Yeah.
growth
Yeah.
in Division Three. I think it's harder to win even against those teams because I think the athletes are getting better
Yeah.
across the board. So from that standpoint, yeah, that's where I see it. I think there's still great teams though from back. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that could play in this era and be fine. Regional differences, um, yeah, I think like the Northeast tends to like they play a very physical brand. Um, like New Jersey, New York. It's not saying it's not attractive, but I think yeah, just the way you watch them tackle and compete, I think is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think I got to experience all the regions when I was at Liberty. That was pretty cool. Like just like
Mm-hmm.
how different California is from
Yeah.
Texas, and because it is like California is very stylistic. How do we dominate the ball, um, and it's fun to watch. Like some of the things that they do tactically out in California and out in Texas, like you're just like, whew, like it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And then you watch PDA and it's just like we compete and we try and find ways to win
Oh, yeah. It's the
and so
UNC model, right? And I don't know if that's right, but that's how they
yeah,
compete, right? Like,
yeah, it's still attractive, but
yeah,
it is different, yeah, in
yeah,
different regions.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's
for
my
sure.
latest. The reason I asked the region thing is that's my latest thing. Like in a country this big, the worst thing we could do is to have players all be the same from coast to coast. Like that's the word. Again, country this big, we want the hard nosed defenders, tough tacklers, but we also want these really free, you know, um, ball players who are just so comfortable with the ball and just enjoy, moving it around. And we also need those guys who get to goal and just have a nose for it, and that's all they do. And we need a variety of those types of players. But that's
Yeah,
my
for
latest thing, unscientific as that might be. And it's sort of the latest thing I'm hanging my hat on. Um, all right, so again, I hate to make the comparisons, and I apologize, but the contrast I think is pretty is big, right? Like Messiah has a, I'll just say, it seems to me from the outside because I, visited and what have you camps and has a very specific, very, I don't know if this is the right word, all-encompassing culture for their teams.
hmm
And I'm wondering how big of a deal is culture for you, and does it? I don't want to say look different at Harrisburg, or is it, or are you trying to build the same type of all-encompassing sort of team culture? Yeah, I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, yeah. No, I think yeah, I think you can do that here. I think that's what we're trying to do here. Is to get our players to buy into something bigger than themselves um, and to, to to have hearts to want to serve one another um, and to not train for their individual glory, but for the team. And so, yeah, are there differences? Yeah, the difference is I can't use the Bible or I can't use
mm-hmm.
my faith as explicitly like my players know where I come from. It's not hard. Like you go to Messiah, you go to Messiah, and then you go to Liberty. I think they know they know where you're at.
Yeah, yeah.
So so my players know my background, and and so I think for me, we want to create an environment where um, uh, they're it's not about them, and it's about the program, and taking care of the program, and yeah, some of that's how they lead themselves is taking care of it. Like they do have to do a good job of leading themselves and taking care of themselves to make the program better. But it's all hopefully from the mindset of we're chasing um, we're chasing this together, um, and so yeah, like that's everything. That's everything to me, because that was my experience. If it's just a soccer experience, I don't think you maximize the players. I don't think you can maximize their potential if it's just a soccer experience. And if it's just about them, I don't think they can maximize their potential. Like I think we will fit. Like I will fail myself as an individual. And like, I mean, here's the best example. Okay, if my wife goes away, right, to with the kids to go be with family because I got to work, right. My diet and what I eat is nowhere near when I have to take care of my kids and I have to give them the food that they need and to be able to grow and stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just the reality. Like individual motivation and is important, but if it is just about you, you will like typically we will fail ourselves before we will fail somebody else. And so
Yeah. It's
I,
a
I
great
think
point.
I
That's a
think part
great
of
point. Yeah.
part of maximizing individual potential is it can't be about you.
Yeah.
And I learned that as a player. Like, and I
Yeah.
was a goalkeeper, and that's very individualized. And I realized like my ability to be as good as I was had it was because I had an unbelievable core around me that I trained with, and we were after just making each other better. And so um, when I look back at that experience, I didn't want to fail them. That was it. Um, and so that's what we want from our players. And so and I think if we can get that and continue to get close to that and make it better, we'll become better as a program. We'll win games and we'll play in big games and all that stuff. All that stuff will take care of itself. But yes, our foundational principles and all of that stuff, it's everything. And you can do that regardless if you're a secular school, Christian school. Just looks a little different.
I've noticed all of the really great programs or the really good programs that have some staying power, right? I'm not thinking of necessarily the ones that, hey, one year they're really good and then the next year they're down. They rely on one of two HPs, right? They either rely on a core part of their culture is a higher power or a higher purpose. And that fills, that becomes a central part of their program, right? And so, higher power, whatever that might be, or a higher purpose as a team, you're looking to your left, to your right, and that becomes your higher purpose, whatever that might be. But I think on really good squads, that is a really core component to any team culture.
Yeah.
And I get all goosebumps because I have my own personal stuff there. But yeah, I think it's, especially now, it's so much more important to have that sort of foundation and that core, especially in the world we live in where, folks can be pretty cruel and all that stuff. So anyhow, I'm going down a tangent that I gotta. We're stopping. I might have to change my channel if we go with it. All right, so let me ask you, year 3. Give me your assessment of your season, of this past season. What do you think? How do you think? If somebody asks you, how'd it go? What's your response?
Yeah, I thought Thought we played at a really high level. I thought we grew a lot from the first year. I mean, first year we found ways to win, and this year I felt like we could play like how I envisioned the game, and so this past year was awesome. We had 5 freshmen in the lineup, and so we were young, and but we were, I mean, we were fun to watch. I loved watching us play. I loved watching us train, and so we return everybody next for this fall. So if we stay healthy, I mean, this team is, I think's got a lot of ability, and if we come in fit, which that's always the $1 million question, is if we come in fit and we're ready, yeah, I mean, I think we can have a big year, because I return everybody, and my returning players now have been with me for a third season, a lot of them, and so they know me, I know them, and so it's a combination of, I feel like, yes, bringing in my players, but also I was fortunate to come into some really talented returning players when I came in, and now they've been with me for 3 years, and so I think everybody understands the standard, the expectation, and understands the environment and what we're trying to do here and build both on and off the field. And so, yeah, I'm excited for this season, and I think, with who we've scheduled in our non-conference, like, it's going to be a really, really good challenge for us. Getting to play, Franklin and Marshall, and Lynchburg and TCNJ, and some other really, really good opponents, and so, yeah, I mean, last year, the only thing, I mean, we broke every record. I mean, we were regionally ranked for the first time in program history, and so the only thing we didn't do was repeat as conference champions, and but we played really well. Like, I walked away from the game thinking, like, yeah, we played really well, and on another day, you probably win. And so that's the cruelty of our game, though. I tell them sometimes, like, you don't take your moments. Yeah, even if you're better, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So
it's a game of goals. That's what I always come down to. And if you're not going to score them, you're going to get scored on. They're going to get scored on you. All right, just to recap, I think I got this right, because for some reason, I couldn't pull up your old schedule now that you have the new one. First of all, I'm just going to say, I mean, you have a heck of a schedule. I mean, it's pretty clear you're testing. Right? It's going to be a lot of tests for you. I'm going to aim to be at your game at TCNJ, I think.
Okay.
That would be a fun one. I might make an appearance there. Maybe you can have me come on at halftime and do an honorary kick of some sort. I don't know. No. All right. So you went 13-4-3, I think. You lost in the final to Penn State Berks.
Yep, 3-0 in overtime.
Yeah. Could you just talk a little bit more in detail about that game? Like, what was it about that game, that 3-0 in overtime? Like,
yeah.
How does that happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
I know how it happens, but from your perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a frustration of mine. We're one of the few conferences in the country that plays their conference tournament back to back. So from a rest standpoint, it's not great.
It's terrible. I'm sorry. Did I say that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just that's reality, and so we played a really tight game with them, we played at their place in the regular season and tied 0-0. Both of us had goals called back, and so that's our rivalry game. It's a big game. It's been the last 3 conference championships, and it's been a fun it's been a fun game to play, against Adrian and his team, and so yeah, I mean, I would say I thought, in terms of controlling the game, we were better. I think they were really dangerous in the counter, which we knew, so I would say I think we probably, both teams probably generated a good amount of like real chances. They may have
Mm-hmm.
generated a few more half chances. I think we probably generated a few more like real clear cut chances on goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it got to overtime, and both teams are dead at that point. So you're just like, okay, whoever scores the first,
Yeah.
probably is going to win. And so they scored the first, and I think we were in 4-3-3, and I immediately flipped it to, I think we were playing 3-3-4, and
Four,
then
yeah.
gave up,
2, 8.
yeah, yeah, and then you give up the second. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, at this point, it doesn't matter how
No,
much we lose.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
got to go get goals. So I think I was playing with two backs at the end, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. The game was a lot closer than it was, and
Yeah.
um, but yeah, the new overtime rule, right? No golden goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that was going to lead to my second question. Like that explains the other tie I couldn't track down. Um, do you like the new overtime rules without having no overtime during the regular season, or I mean, you have any thoughts on that? Not
Oh,
granted, you only had three. One of them was in the final, obviously, that went to overtime, so you really didn't have much of an experience with it. But just was
I didn't.
curious.
I didn't like it. I mean,
No.
we would have. I mean, in the regular season, we would have had three overtime games, and
Uh huh.
um, I get it, maybe from like a player safety
Mm-hmm.
model, but I think to go from you never play overtime to now you have to play automatic 20 minutes, even if a goal gets scored. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't enjoy that. But for me,
Yeah.
it's we're trying to move to the pro model, and I don't understand why. We're college soccer, like and part of me is like, you know, the reality is, especially in Division Three, my majority of my players aren't going to go pro, and so like to think that I have to prepare them for that, I
That's
think you're taking
absurd.
away. I think you're taking away awesome experiences. I don't know. My best experiences as a player were winning in overtime.
Yeah.
Like
That's what
um,
yeah. You
so
remember those, like those moments, like as crazy as they are. I mean, I remember games where we even lost in overtime, battling it out to the death, like almost like bludgeoning each other until somebody was a winner and not being on the right end. I remember those moments
yeah,
more
and I
so
think
regular games, like oh we won two or we lost. Like I don't, so those weren't a big deal, but those other the OTs sear in your mind. But anyhow, for
oh
me
for
at
sure,
least.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're your best
yeah,
and sometimes your worst your
yeah,
worst.
yeah, yeah,
you know, I don't know. I also don't like the idea of incentivizing a tie, which was another reason. Like,
yeah,
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Especially like if you're a team that's going to be on the front foot and you're playing a
yeah,
team that's going to sit in and play for that.
yeah,
I don't know. Give the team that wants to be on the front foot another 20 minutes.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so that's just my
yeah.
thought. And I
Yeah.
think it caused a lot of problems for the NCAA committee picking
Oh,
teams.
I'm sure. Right,
Like,
because there are now you've basically, it's not a tie. It's a bad tie, it's a good tie, or it's a gooder tie, right? Like you're never really in a, it's not as clear cut. And so without that clarity, you're making it up. You're making a judgment call that you might have not have most of the, and I'm not saying, I mean, they're doing what they're doing, right? Figuring out the rankings and all that stuff, but it makes them make judgment calls that they might not like. A perfect example, right? I had no idea you went to overtime and lost by 3 in overtime. Just looking at the score, it doesn't look friendly to you, right? But there's a whole context to it, right? You know what I mean? Like there's a whole context. You would battled it out, and
yep.
So anyhow, I could go down another rabbit hole on that one. Like some days I'm like, hey, let's go back to the OT. But I do think your point about you're trying to get to the professional game, and you're just and you're not only are you college, but you're Division 3, and most players aren't going to find a career. I say a career in professional soccer. Um, I'd argue that you're not going to get that many as at the Division 1 level either. Truth be told, but that's that's sacrilege, right? Like, how dare I suggest such a thing, that Division One isn't going to create this generation of professional soccer players. It's just not,
Right.
for a whole host of reasons. Now that's a whole. I'm actually doing a thing on high school, um, on like what I think is the value of high school soccer, and obviously, to talk about the value of high school soccer, I got to talk about the academy, MLS, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm realizing, oh my gosh, what are we doing there? And then I'm realizing, oh my gosh, college, like what? It's all, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And
Sure.
they're definitely not the brightest, but I don't know. It's kind of obvious to me. But anyhow, sorry, I got off on a tangent again.
No, you're good.
You're a goalkeeper. See what happens.
Yeah.
I talk to a goalkeeper, and I get my mind gets going as a former goalkeeper myself. Actually, I'm still a goalkeeper. I shouldn't say former. I am waiting for the call from the national team. I just I'm hoping that new national team coach, with his connection to Division III soccer, being an Ursinus alum, he's going to be like, we got to call that SimpleCoach dude up to the national team, because I'm sure he's really good.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so let me go back. You guys are all done, right? I mean, you've been done for a few weeks now, I think.
Yep.
What were your plans, or what did you do for the spring? Like, did you have a specific purpose to the spring, whether it was tactical or you just wanted a more technical approach?
Yeah, we had a bigger group, so and everybody was returning. So, I'm only bringing in two new freshmen to this group. You know, and so we got to do some more tactical things. More realistic, more like what I would call fall training sessions, which was fun. Because I had a full group, and so we were able to train in 11v11 and do some things there. I think we balanced it with, like, we competed. I think we spent some time, like, just in competitive settings, and a lot in the 1v1 and in small sided. And we tracked a lot of that stuff. I mean, not every day, but we tracked those training sessions just to kind of evaluate, okay, where are our most competitive players? Who are our most competitive players? It's like the Anson Dorn's competitive cauldron thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't do it every day, but we do it sometimes, and so I think it's a metric for us to be able to have end of the season conversations on where people stand and all that stuff. And then, yeah, we spent a lot of time in the tactical and like, okay, how do we desire to play? And because we could. And so, and there's not going to be a lot of new faces for next year. And so I felt like we could get a head start on next year, this spring, in terms of what we're trying to do on both sides of the ball. I would say we spent most of our time, though, on the offensive side of the ball. This like, just how do we control games in the opponent's attacking third, and how do we sustain rhythm and possession, and then a lot of counter pressing out of that when we lost it. That's where we spent a lot of our time.
Yeah. I just looking at your roster, you have, it says here you have 7 seniors
for next year.
Maybe, I don't know if it's been updated. I'm assuming. Oh yeah.
Yeah. 23.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, we have seven seniors. Yep. 1, 2. I'm counting my board right now. 1, 2,
6, 7, 8, 9, I think.
9 seniors. Yep. 9 seniors.
Yep. So you are very young, right? Because your sophomore class is the dominant class. Am I?
Yeah,
not?
we had 10 freshmen. Yeah. Well, 10 freshmen last year, going to be sophomores. Yep.
Wow, that's interesting. You only brought in 2 was that by design? You only brought in 2, or yeah?
We brought
a design.
Yeah, we brought a transfer in January as well, and then we we had a center back that was a freshman my first year, and she stepped away for a little bit and then came back. So we had four. We had
technically it would be 4 that joined the program.
4 new faces. Yeah, and then we could be bringing in. We've got our ID camp this weekend, and we have possible transfer that we could be bringing in, as well as a freshman. So there's still 2 more that we could bring in. Need to. We're at 25 right now, so and I don't like having a huge roster. So
okay. All right, so let me ask you, what, looking ahead, my last question for you, and then I'll let you get on with your day. But do you have any outlined goals that you could share for the fall? Like, are you looking that far ahead, or are you? Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, my one hope is they come in fit.
All else is secondary.
We're not a goal-driven program.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I don't focus on things I don't have control over. And the reality is I don't have control over winning. I've just and I've witnessed it now in 2 conference championship games. Like, last year I thought we were the better team and we lost, and the year before I did not think we were the better team and we won. So, that is a very much that's something that was ingrained in me at Messiah, is to be 100% focused on the process and what you have full control over, and that's how you prepare and how you get ready for opponents, and how you plan practice. And for the players, it's coming in fit, it's taking care of your grades, it's getting to bed on time, hydrating. Like, we're very process oriented, and because it's so much easier. Like, I don't know, like it's why it's so hard, I think, to sustain winning, because when it's easy to get there the first time, or easier to get there the first time, but to stay there, because you forget.
There's the hardest thing.
Yeah, you forget how hard it took, and now everyone wants to come after you, right? Yeah. And so now you're getting everybody's best, and you're like, well, I'm on the top. And so I just never want our players to think that the end destination is super rewarding. And I've told them this story, like in 2012, like, when we won and we were undefeated and we came back to Messiah at 10 o'clock at night, and I thought there was going to be a party for us, and like all these things that you see at the Division I level, and we show up, nobody's there. I go to class the next day, and I have a professor asking, why weren't you in class the last 5 days? And it doesn't change your life, and it doesn't change your person. And my assistant told me that, like, before we played in the Final Four, he's like, Brandon, I know this is something you've wanted, but it's not going to change your life. It's going to be an awesome 30 minutes, and then the adrenaline's you're gonna come crashing down and realize it's not fulfilling, and what was fulfilling was everything it took to get there.
Very true.
And it's so true, because when people ask me my stories, it has nothing to do with those games. Those aren't my favorite. Yeah. And I don't want that to be my players' favorite moments. No. So
there is, I don't want to say it's hollow, but there is something very hollow to championships when you get there and you think that this something like this all-encompassing thing that, and there does come that moment of reflection where it was like, it's not this point in time of getting the trophy. It's the points in time looking back and how did I get there? That's the most valuable. That's a great point. All right, Coach, I'm going to let you get on with your day. I do appreciate you taking the time. This was fantastic. Really glad we could connect and do this. I actually have to go through on a trip next week, so I might actually kind of hit your campus just to do a quick tour, check it out. So,
okay.
and maybe I'll stop by, knock on the door, steal some good stuff you got going there. That poster, I like that. I'm all about the gear. So
Yeah.
But anyhow, thank you very much, and this I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This was awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my Chief Marketing Officer. I think this keeps him happy.